COZI TV presents 10 Secret Stories. Our TV heroes, our TV icons, our top stars and shows, and what you might not know about them. This episode, TV's Amazing Dogs.
Lassie was way more than a dog.
Most of the dogs who played Lassie through all those years were males.
Animals from different shows, like Eddie from Frasier, are actually rescue dogs.
They named the dog Freeway because he was found stray by the freeway. I'm just happy the dog's name isn't Toilet.
That's why I guess I'm a good performer. I just need somebody to train me.
Which, by the way, a fluffy dog on Little House on the Prairie would have been eaten. That dog would have been coyote bait in like 2 seconds.
See how smart I am? I just need to be trained.
Join TV writers, actors, hosts, reporters, and comics as we count down to our #1 favorite TV pet. The countdown starts now. Number 10, Boot and Henry, the dogs of emergency.
Name of the first dog on Emergency? Boot. Not Boots, Boot.
He was a stray, kind of stray dog, you know.
A mutt who happens to wander into the firehouse the second episode of season 2. And Boot has that scruffy, shaggy, ruffled look that reminds me of Columbo. And there's an episode where Boot won't eat. And there's a lot of other stuff going on in this episode, okay? A woman catches her hair in a mixer and sets her stove on fire. Somebody traps a car under a gas truck and there's an explosion at the hospital. But the episode is called Boot because the big emergency is not that someone's on fire, it's that Boot won't eat.
That's the best hamburger you can get. We're having it for lunch.
Maybe we better not eat it either.
Well, if he won't touch this, he's sick.
The reason that Boot wasn't eating was because somebody at the station house was yelling at him.
What'd you do to him?
Nothing.
Did you hit him?
I didn't hit him. I yelled at him a little.
Well, that's what did it.
Yelling at dogs can cause fear and anxiety and distract them from what they really need to be doing.
You gotta be kidding. And you don't understand. Boot is a very sensitive dog.
The key to disciplining dogs is all about positive reinforcement. That's going to teach them that this behavior is a good behavior and that they're going to want to keep doing it.
So Boot was around for a while, but then Boot goes to another station house and then the emergency squad gets a new dog, Henry. And Henry is a basset hound.
Welcome to Station 51, kid.
So Boot got the boot.
You're darn right.
Sit, stay, lay down. Call out any of those commands, and chances are that a basset hound is kind of doing them already.
Basset hounds are one of your classically mellow pets. They really like to take it easy. They're total cuddle buddies. They don't require a ton of exercise and activity, though some is nice.
Basset hounds, not really your obvious choice for a firehouse. They kind of just sit around. Not your most protective of animals. Perhaps a bit lazy.
Well, either he's sick or he's the laziest dog ever lived.
Dalmatians were always a symbol of rescue squads, particularly firehouses.
And that's actually for a reason. Back when fire trucks were drawn by horses, the Dalmatians would run alongside to make sure they stayed on course to get to the fire. And then when they got there, they were kind of the buffer zone so that the horses wouldn't freak out because the horses were obviously terrified of fire.
They have a secret language calming the horses. And then you had the lawlessness around firefighting in the early days of the US. You had competing squads, they'd rob and steal and fight each other. So your Dalmatian would protect your truck, but not a basset hound. A basset hound is gonna sit there unless there's treats. And who could blame them? But they are excellent hunting dogs and they love to chase bunnies. So
if you're trying to find a bunny, maybe basset hound could find the bunny for you?
Number 9, Freeway, from Heart to Heart.
What breed is he?
Only his mother knows.
They always used to refer to Freeway as a mixed breed, but it was actually a Louchin.
Louchins were popular in Europe before the Renaissance with ladies in the court, and they were bred to look like lions.
The Louchin is basically a kitchen mop that thinks it's too good.
Freeway, you coming with me? You're staying with him.
A lot of times people, they'll choose an animal and they'll think of like cutesy names, but this name is actually Freeway because the dog was found on a freeway.
Which makes me glad that they didn't find it near a dumpster or a sewer.
Freeway was found at a shelter, and I always think about, clearly this dog belonged to a person because you just don't find these dogs at a shelter. And I just think like, did the person see Freeway on TV and then like started like writing Freeway fan letters and like, I don't know if you remember me. I just think of it as sort of like the deadbeat dad who like gives up Justin Bieber and then is like, oh crap, you're famous now. Like, did they show up like looking for money?
Why would anyone want to K-I-D-N-A-P him?
I think someone was trying to K-I-L-L him.
Louchins are classically very friendly with strangers. They're not always the best with children, so given those things, they might not be the best watchdog because they might see a stranger and think, oh, let's be friends.
Now, interestingly though, they're detectives that are always being threatened by danger and murder. So if you're gonna get a dog that loves strangers, does that make sense? Like if you're constantly facing danger and murder. Do you get a dog that loves strangers? That's not really a guard dog? Sure, why not? Why not? That's a heart-to-heart thing.
You know, maybe I should learn a few new tricks.
Why? I like all the old ones.
Freeway was almost a substitute child for the Hearts.
And they were like the first couple to have what I call the dialed. And that's when you don't have any children, but you have a dog and it becomes your child. It's a dialed. And like, they loved that dog.
Mr. and Mrs. Jonathan Harker. And, come in. Freeway.
There were a lot of scenes where you see them kind of loving on the dog and being with one another, and you're like, God, this is like the most perfect couple ever.
Freeway. What do I have to do to get rid of you for about an hour?
Number 8, Dog on Columbo.
Columbo had a dog, but we're not quite sure what the dog's name was. I think the dog's name was Dog.
All right, come on, Dog.
I mean, Columbo was like a cut-to-the-chase kind of guy, you know?
The receptionist told me you were tied up, so I decided to wander around. I hope you don't mind.
He didn't have a lot of time to fool around with a bunch of fluff.
What's his name?
You know, I don't know the name yet. What do you think about Fido?
Oh, wow. How'd you ever think of that one?
So his dog was Dog. We didn't know his wife's name, so she was Wife. His car was Car. His suit was Suit. His rain jacket was Rain. Cigar was Cigar. That's Columbo. Straight cut to the chase.
You killed your wife because you were in love with the girl.
He didn't name his wife, he didn't name his dog. It was all about Columbo.
No, I was thinking of watching him and giving him a name that fits something he did, but all he does is sleep and drool.
Coming up, the four-legged hero they spent $1 million to rebuild. And you need a lot of speed to outrun these lads when TV's Amazing Dogs continues. You're watching COZI TV's 10 Secret Stories. Welcome back to COZI TV's 10 Secret Stories, TV's Amazing Dogs. Number 7, Maximilian on the Bionic Woman.
Maximilian was a German Shepherd injured in a lab fire that was rebuilt to the tune of $1 million. Out at $1 million for the dog. Hence the name Maximilian. I might have just made that up, but you gotta admit, it's a good one.
Maximilian, the bionic dog, wasn't as bionic as the humans, because the human bionic, they were like the $6 million man. So that was $6 million, but the dog was only $1 million. So it was semi-bionic.
He had 4 bionic legs and a bionic jaw. His measured land speed was 90 miles an hour, and you could bite through solid steel.
Maximilian was amazing because you want to talk about a guard dog that could like pull a car. The only dog that could catch the car and know what to do with it.
Since Max could bite through a can of dog food through it, he would get through the can to get to his dinner. He was totally self-sufficient and probably mastered one-click reordering from Amazon, and he could program the TV. You know, I need him. I need that dog.
Max.
So Maximilian, who I think cost about $1 million, made me feel awful because I was like, I put my dog down for kidney failure. And you guys just spent $1 million to save this dog?
What's going on in that furry head of yours?
So they might have jumped the shark in the one episode where Maximilian signals to Jamie what he wants for dinner by getting a cookbook and showing her the recipe for spaghetti.
First of all, what operation allows a dog to learn how to read is what I want to know. When a dog goes and gets you a cookbook and then flips to the page of the recipe, you know, truthfully, you no longer have a pet, you have a roommate.
Was that part of the bionic process, giving Maximilian the ability to associate the food he wants with the recipe in the cookbook and to know the page where you find the recipe? Or were these skills that Max had before the operation? Or is this a totally psycho storyline that some Hollywood writers came up with after a 3-martini lunch?
I love dogs. I have a ton of respect for dogs and their intelligence, but there are certainly limitations.
Even Snoopy never got a cookbook. Snoopy just went and got a bowl. Snoopy went, you know, there's Snoopy with the bowl in his mouth. That meant it was time to eat. He didn't come back with like, you know, yeah, here's Mario Batali's Italian rustic cookbook. Like page 97. You know.
Number 6, Zeus and Apollo for Magnum PI.
Come, lads. We still have time to catch the last 10 minutes of Lassie.
Zeus and Apollo were my favorite dogs on TV because, one, I wanted to own 2 Doberman Pinschers that were just obey my every command.
Steady.
Higgins, it seemed like he could say to them, Zeus, Apollo, coffee. And they come back with like coffee. And it'd be like, you know, like the best Sumatra you could ever have. And locally sourced. And fair trade.
Now that's...
Dobermans are regarded as being aggressive, but that's not always the case. They're often sweet, loyal, good dogs. They do require a bit of space for activity, and it is good to socialize them with children at a young age.
Mei Ling, how are you with animals?
What kind of animals?
That kind.
Fact, the breed was developed by a tax collector named Louis Doberman back in the 1800s. He'd walk the dog around with him as he collected taxes door to door. One growl, oh yeah, you're paying your taxes. No evasion for you.
Zeus and Apollo would always chase Magnum away. That makes a lot of sense. Dobermans scare that out of me. If they're the big ones, the small Dobermans, which is what I've had, if you were scared of a small Doberman, there is something literally wrong with you.
This is a little known fact, but the producers wanted to get rid of those dogs after a while to save money. But Tom Selleck and John Hillerman argued to keep the lads.
No! That's mine!
I think Hillerman liked being in control of the dogs and having a couple characters on the property that obeyed him.
Zeus, Apollo, control.
And Selleck probably liked the exercise. I can't relate to the exercise part, but I do enjoy telling my dogs what to do.
Coming up, how does a popular TV show handle the loss of a beloved pet? And what happens when a new animal takes its place? When TV's Amazing Dogs continues. You're watching COZI TV's 10 Secret Stories. Welcome back to COZI TV's 10 Secret Stories, TV's Amazing Dogs. Number 5, Jack from Little House on the Prairie.
Jack was Laura's pet dog that originally traveled west with the family to their homestead on the prairie. In the Ingalls books that were the inspiration for the series, Jack was a French bulldog, but the producers took a license with that and instead cast a fluffy, scruffy, lovable, cute dog named Barney. Because scruffy, lovable, cute means ratings. Who doesn't know that? Well, apparently it was Michael Landon's call and he wanted cute, not accuracy.
Got your best friend, your old dog Jack, right here.
You know, I'm looking at a picture of Jack right now, and it's tough to tell what breed he is. You know, I think he's got maybe some kind of sheepdog in him, or certain terriers have this kind of look too, but he has kind of that classic scruffy mutt look. Pretty cute dog.
It's kind of upsetting that the Hollywood beauty standard even applies to dogs. Like that brindle dog was not beautiful enough and they needed a fluffy dog, which by the way, a fluffy dog on Little House on the Prairie would have been eaten. That dog would have been coyote bait in like 2 seconds.
Jack went everywhere with the family and survived all sorts of tragedies, including almost drowning in the original pilot for the series. Until in season 4, the dog actually dies of old age. Now, he was fine, but Michael Landon wanted the storyline to change.
Number 4, Bandit, also from Little House on the Prairie.
So they get a new dog whose real name was Jeff. That's a great name for a dog, Jeff. But he was called Bandit in the series, and Jeff was a working dog in the Universal Studios Animal Show. He lived at Universal and he'd get picked up and brought to the set when he was needed for shoots.
Hey, you little bandit, how'd you get on the wagon, huh?
So we lose poor Jack and then Bandit shows up and Bandit is playing with Jack's toys and the girls are devastated because those were Jack's toys.
When the new dog entered the series, Laura was not thrilled. She didn't know how she felt about a new dog replacing her beloved Jack.
I don't want him!
It's really tough when a child that's grown up with a pet and known that pet their whole life to lose that pet. And so that's just something you have to understand as being a pet owner that, you know, we outlive our animals. And the next step is to share that love with the next animal and realize and appreciate it's a new animal and just expand that love.
And I gotta say, I gotta call a little BS because I feel like little girls would just be like, dogs! Because I'm a grown woman and I'm like, dogs!
Little House on the Prairie did a really great job at kind of teaching kids and people how to learn to grieve animals. It kind of just shows you, you know, to really cherish the moments that you have with your animals. And if a new dog comes around, you have to just embrace the new dog and try to move on and create new memories.
Finding love for a new pet is going to come naturally, and it's all about spending the quality time with them.
I do love you. I love you, Bandit.
The more time you spend with them, the stronger the bond between you two is going to be.
Number 3, Lassie.
Most of the dogs who played Lassie through all those years were males.
So Lassie was transgender, a transgender dog.
And you can imagine how they felt every time they'd come into the house and Timmy would go, Lassie, what is it, girl?
Take us home to Mom, girl.
quiet, girl.
But this is what you put up with to have your own show.
Pull, Lassie, pull!
Lassie is a wonderful example of why we love collies.
I did love Lassie.
They just want to do everything to please you. They're playful, they're loyal, they're extremely intelligent.
Not smart enough to communicate, Timmy fell down the well. That is so pushing it. I'm not even sure how they'd know what a well is.
Collies do have a very high activity level, so as an owner, it's really important to have a lot of space and engagement for them because they love to be busy and they love to play.
I have to say Lassie had a big influence. Solved crimes, that face. Lassie was way more than a dog.
Coming up, his best trick was to stare and stare and stare. When TV's Amazing Dogs continues, you're watching COZI TV's 10 Secret Stories. Welcome back to COZI TV's 10 Secret Stories, TV's Amazing Dogs. Number 2, Bullet from Roy Rogers.
Hey, you've got something on your mind. Let's see what it is.
Bullet wasn't just Bullet. Bullet was Bullet the Wonder Dog.
Get the rope. Get the rope.
I so want a line like that, you know, Cat the Fantastic every time I walk in. Not entirely sure what made him so wonderful, but I'm gonna take Roy Rogers' word for it. Bullet had an uncanny ability to tell the good guys from the bad guys. He protected the ranch, and he seemed to be able to run just as fast as Trigger the horse. Well, that's pretty wonderful.
German Shepherds were bred to be very busy dogs. They love to be trained, they love to be active, they love to work, they want to please, and they need a lot of enrichment and engagement. And so if you're looking for more of a couch potato sort of a dog, then this is not the breed for you.
Bullet, that's enough.
I feel like we need to put some sort of a warning you might throw up in front of this, but when Bullet died, Roy had him preserved just like he did with his horse Trigger. And by preserved, I mean stuffed. At an auction a few years ago, Bullet went for 35 grand. Dale Evans' horse fetched $25,000 and Trigger went for over $250,000. Well, I'm so glad we're spending our money wisely in this country.
I hereby bestow on Bullet Rogers the honorary title of Deputy Sheriff.
Bullet was, next to Lassie, just about the most famous dog in TV in the 1950s. And it's kind of nice that he could just growl at bad guys and be thought of as wonderful without having bionic parts or the ability to read or speak English.
Number 1, Eddie from Frasier.
Oh, and who might this be?
That is Eddie.
So Eddie the dog on Frasier, who was a Jack Russell Terrier. I remember that Eddie was so popular that everyone had a Jack Russell Terrier. It was like when 101 Dalmatians came out and everyone had to get a Dalmatian. Everyone had a Jack Russell Terrier. And you know what? They weren't all like Eddie. So you'd see them, they're yapping down the street. People are like, oh, my Jack Russell's hyperactive. And it's like, okay, because he's not a trained dog on a television show, okay?
I'm telling you, there's something weird about Eddie. You never should have taken him to those dog groomers.
I had to bring him. His toenails were like Howard Hughes and his breath smelled like an autopsy.
Surrendered by his original owner, because let's face it, Jack Russells are a handful, the dog's real name was Moose. Moose got into a lot of trouble chasing cats and horses and ruining the property. But once all that energy got channeled into performing, Moose calmed right the heck down, and he was amazing.
Mrs. Greenwood, there's no way that Eddie could be the father. He's been neutered.
Oh, really? Well, then how do you explain these?
Oh, my God!
Jack Russells are often given up to shelters because they need a lot of activity. They need to be trained. They're very busy dog breeds. And that comes in handy when it comes to animal trainers using them in TV shows or movies, because once you channel that energy, they become very effective, good little dogs that love to obey and learn and train.
Bad dog. Look what you did!
This is a case of a dog that really, truly performed. There have been a lot of dogs on television that just kind of sat there and existed on the set, but Eddie on Frasier was as much a member of that cast as Maris. You didn't see Maris, you saw Eddie the dog.
Eddie was comic relief. And for a dog to have good timing comedically, as a comedian, I really have to appreciate that.
Excuse me, are you saying he understands me?
Well, he understands the word B-A-T-H. God knows how much English he's picked up.
So fun fact, in order to get Eddie to lick Frasier's face, they would put a little bit of liver right here and they would go, all right, ready, 3, 2, 1, go. Go over there and lick the liver off, and then there it is, it's all natural. Eddie was really good at staring at Frasier because what the trainer would do is go behind Frasier, point his little finger, and Eddie would just stare and stare at that finger for as long as they wanted him to do it.
Stare all you like. You will not distract me from my paper. You see? Your efforts are futile. I can't even see you.
Okay, so the funny thing about the show is Frasier wasn't necessarily a huge fan of Eddie, and that made it that much more fun to see Eddie just stare at Frasier for minutes on end, and it would make Frasier crazy.
Go away.
Well, why does he listen to you and not to me?
By the tone of my voice, he senses I mean business.
Oh, I see. You're saying your voice is more commanding than mine is?
Hell, I took a half a step before I realized she was talking to the dog.
In real life, the cast all loved the dog and they admired his work ethic. When Moose was ready to retire, his part was taken over by his son, Enzo. So another case of show business nepotism. It's all about who you know.
Well, you could at least act surprised, you know.
A lot of show business dog trainers have noticed that rescue dogs make really good show business dogs. They're really eager to please, and they're willing, ready, able to basically do what they need to do.
When trainers go to shelters and they're looking for dogs that can be used for TV or whatnot with training, a big part of it is actually just looking into the eyes of the dog. And they can tell this animal wants to please them. It wants direction, it wants instruction. And it's just saying, just tell me what to do. I'm here for you.